Today is October 15th, 2020. In the grand scheme of things, tomorrow my twins will be 11. The day after that, my son is going to be 14, which is a little crazy, but what's crazier is we're about 6 months, give or take, into the Massachusetts shutdown as a result of the global pandemic. Not really have anything to do with cider, but cider keeps happening in spite of all of these things that happen in our lives, which is kind of one of the nice things about cider. So today, I'm actually here to talk to you about Redfield. I just harvested 3 bushels off of 9 trees. These trees were grafted over in 2017. Last year they had a small crop. This year they've had a really heavy crop. Actually, it's been a remarkably heavy cropper, which is why I want to show you these trees today. Some of you may have heard of the term crop and flop. So ultimately what this means is that you allow the leader to develop a crop heavy enough to let it flop over on the top, and this is supposed to help reduce vigor in more vigorous upright trees, especially in a high density planting. Unfortunately, however, what we got with this Redfield was more of a crop and break. So that was once the leader. It is now, of course, not viable. I took about 7 to 8 fairly decent sized fruit off of this limb, which is of course why it snapped over. Now, that having been said, I'm sure the windstorms that we've had throughout the season haven't helped. Now, the other thing that's going on here, you can see, is we've got this replacement leader coming right here. I'm just going to pretend like I did that on purpose. But seriously, we can cut this off here, right? And now we're going to have this replacement leader here moving forward. Just something to think about with Redfields, because it does crop heavy. The other interesting thing that I have noticed about Redfields is that it gets this end rot. And of course, when you look in closer, you see that it goes all the way inside the apple. Now that I'm back in the home office, I thought I'd share a few final thoughts about Redfield with you. First of all, I mentioned that it was a heavy cropper. I should say this year it was an exceptionally heavy cropper. Next year, we'll see. Last year, I only got about a half bushel. That half bushel I pressed and got 2/3 of a gallon of juice from. I also have another red-fleshed crab that I have access to. Rather, a red-fleshed apple. This one happens to be a crab. Redfield's not a crab. Anyway, so I pressed them both last year. The one I had gotten approximately a bushel from, got a gallon out of that. Pressed them both. Harvested Redfield on October 25th and harvested the red-fleshed crab on September 24th. I ended up pressing them both on December 27th, and then I pitched them both with Alchemy. So today, I'm going to show you the difference between what the two juices look like. The Redfield is not as deep red on the inside, whereas the red-fleshed crab has got a very red juice. So let's take a look. Redfield. It's a little dark. You can see just a touch of that blush color that you would expect to see from a red-fleshed apple, but it's not that red. The cider itself, however, tastes great. It does exactly what you want a single varietal cider to do. Complexity, good notes, overall good to drink. This is the red-fleshed crab. It's pretty wicked tart. It's good, but it definitely is lacking in some complexities, and if you like tart, then this is going to be right up your alley. If you don't like tart, you're not gonna like it at all. Now, being the ever-curious person that I am, I thought to myself, well gee, what happens if you mix these two together? Over here, you get a half and half of Redfield and the red-fleshed crab. And over here, you've got about 3/4 Redfield and 1/4 red-fleshed crab. The one on the right-hand side really does have that great, dare I say it, rosé color that you want to see in a cider that has red-fleshed crab in it, or any other red-fleshed apple for that matter. The one on the left is still a little dark, and it does overpower the softer complexity of the Redfield. The one on the right, on the other hand, is really good. If you like red-fleshed cider, then you would be happy to get that at the store.